Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stacey West channel. I am Ben. The Imps, of course, host Cambridge United on Saturday at Sincil Bank. So there's only really one place we could turn to, and that was the Under the Abbey Stand. Folks over there. And we're joined by Jack from there to discuss the game. How you doing, mate? You keeping well?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Football aside, I don't like to talk about that too much, but I seem to find myself on podcasts quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, I'm really sorry, but I think the next 15 minutes or so might it might put paid to that for a moment. But
No worries.
yeah, so I mean, I suppose we'll rip the plaster off straight away. Cambridge currently sitting bottom of the table. Obviously, a difficult season for you guys. What was the expectation coming in? And I mean, that's probably a bit of a silly question, but is anything changing from that? And how are you seeing your situation at the moment?
I think generally the kind of situations we go into a season is always thinking about survival. I think that when we're in League One, I think it has to be that, because we're one of the smaller teams, regardless of any other situation in the league. And I think this year, League One has been the hardest it's ever been when we've been back in it. I think you look at the teams at the top and they've got money to spend and millions to spend as it is. But you also look at the teams in around mid-table and towards the bottom, and they've got twice, three times our wage budget and more money to throw at players. So I think we needed to be realistic. I think survival should have been the aim at the start of the season, as it always is. And I think kind of we had a big turnover in the summer. Quite a few players left. Quite a few new ones came in. And I think it will have had to be about, ironically starting well and trying to build a bit of a platform this season. And we had such an awful start, it kind of governed it. But in answer to the second part of the question, I think, to be honest, I think we just have to look towards survival. We've got a bit of a mini season ahead of us now, really. You just have to look at the table and think, can we get out of this? And we turned around an 8-point deficit in 9 games at the back end of a season a couple of seasons ago. So it's very doable. That's the deficit we have now. And there's still plenty of games for us to get through. 18 games left in the season, so I think we just have to look at it like that and think, yeah, we can get out of this and take it a game at a time, really.
Yeah, I mean, looking ahead at the fixture list for you guys, I think obviously you've got ourselves on Saturday, and then Tuesday night you're away at Birmingham. You've got 2 home games on the bounce there, Exeter, Stockport. That'll be a tough game there. You've got Crawley. I mean, say they're tough games at the moment. I'm guessing it feels like they're all tough games.
It does. I mean, we can take some solace from good results. We beat Mansfield at home, and 3-2 looks like a dangerous scoreline. And whilst it was, we were 3-0 up in that game and played very good football. We should have got something from Rotherham 1 point, if not all 3, straight after that. But then you look at a game where we've picked up a point against Wickham and been slightly disappointed with it. So there's still a team in Cambridge United, and all the games are hard games. To be honest, over the last 4 seasons of us being in League One, I don't think we've ever looked at a game and thought, oh, that's a bit of an easy one. That's a 3-point. There's a couple of times against Cheltenham, against Burton, in seasons gone by where we thought that, and they're both games we've contrived to lose, and they've taken 6 points of us. So I think we don't really think about games as easy games in this league. But you are right. I think there's some real tough ones coming up. I think this weekend's trip to Lincoln is so important because of the Birmingham game on the Tuesday after. It's a very difficult place to go anyway on a Tuesday night after a tough run of fixtures. I think we're really going to struggle to pick anything up. But we have shown a bit of kind of drive and a bit of grit at home. So the visits of Exeter and Stockport, who've both got long journeys to get here, we really need to make difficult for them and get something from both those games if there's any chance of us staying up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, you don't expect, I suppose if you don't expect much, you're always going to be happy with whatever positive results you can get out of it, I suppose. So let's look at the recent transfer window. Obviously, the window closing on Monday night. By the looks of it, I think there's 5 players come in for you guys. I think Nathan Bishop, Ben Stevenson, Don Ballard, Detlef Osong, and is it Marco Morosi?
Yeah, to kind of just counter that comment slightly, Morosi came in as a goalkeeper and looked really good, really strong, and then tore his hamstring.
Okay.
Nathan Bishop came in at the end of the window as the goalkeeper that Morosi came in as the start.
Right. Okay.
So it's a real shame for Morosi. He looked a really good keeper. He looked like someone who's going to, we've had a bit of a goalkeeping issue this season and in seasons gone by. Vicente Reyes was our goalkeeper, our number one at the start of the season. He was on loan from Norwich. He had some kind of iffy games at the start of December, was dropped. Jack Stevens came in. The transfer window opened and Norwich recalled Vicente Reyes, took him back.
Right.
Had Stevens again had his iffy. But then that's why we brought Morosi to try and kind of have that number one in there again. And then, tore his hamstring. So, in comes Nathan Bishop, looks really up for it, seemed really positive about joining United. I think he's positive about getting game time, as goalkeepers often are. So that's really good to hear. I think Don Ballard is a really good promising young forward from Southampton, really good. Kind of record for England teams, the under 17s up to under 20s, and being on loan out at Reading and Blackpool and impressed in small spells. So I think he's one that is really going to be really important for us. I think goals are what we need, certainly in this quest for survival, and I think Don Ballard could be a man who can certainly contribute both with goals but also assists and just being in the right place at the right time. Ben Stevenson was pictured with the squad, travelled away with the squad, and we were kind of waiting for the announcement, and there was a worry that he wasn't going to get announced for some reason or another, but he is with us now. A lot of games played for Colchester and Forest Green between 2019 and 2023, and he comes from Portsmouth with a fairly good pedigree. So hopefully that's someone who can kind of bolster our midfield and just bring us a bit more kind of options in that respect.
Great stuff. We did speak briefly off air and said about, is there a renewed sense of optimism given the window? But I think you said it started before the window a little bit. There's kind of a little bit of a glimmer of hope there for you guys. So is that due to like a shift in mentality? Is it a bit of a siege mentality now? Like we're going, we've got to do this, or has anything changed, or is it just kind of how you guys have been?
It's either that or Stockholm syndrome. It's one of the two. But I think genuinely it might just be like, as you said before, that siege mentality. We're down there, and also we don't need to look over our shoulder. I'm not saying it particularly flippantly, but like we're 8 points adrift. We now just need to think about it game by game. We need to make up that deficit, not really worry about who are the teams between us and above us, and just go for it. We can't be thinking about, that's a team we're playing near us in the table. We kind of have to go for these 18 games as 18 individual games, and just go for them and go for the team ahead of us. We've shown in the past in this league we can beat teams at the top of the table, and we've also shown we can lose to teams at the bottom. So we just need to take it game by game and really go for it. And I think we've seen glimmers in performances. The festive period was a difficult one for us, and I think most people had kind of written it off. But the second half of January, we've just started to come back into games and show what we can do. That Mansfield one sticks in the mind. An hour of really good football in that game, and we deservedly won that game, even though it was a difficult end to it. And there's still kind of glimmers of United being good. I think Ryan Loft coming into a bit of form could be crucial for our season. I never thought I'd say that 6 weeks ago, so fair play to him for coming back from what was a really difficult start for him. But we'll just have to see. But I think, the fans are still on board. Gary Monk kept his job and his backroom staff too, and regardless of what's happened in the window, I think the focus now needs to be on United as a club rather than a team and a management group, and just looking to try and claw back League One football for next year.
No, I like that description, to be honest. Like, focusing on as a club rather than a team. I do like that. When you have that group mentality, it can sometimes just add that little. I mean, we talk about intangibles quite a lot on the podcast, and it's one of those things that you can't put on paper, but it makes a massive difference. Let's talk about how you guys tend to set up. Then you've obviously say you've been seeing some pretty good football recently. Still, from what we've seen, it's still looking at sort of 3-4-1-2. Is that? Does it tend to be more of a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2? That 10 role kind of sitting more forward or more back? How do you guys tend to play?
It's very dependent on how the game's panning out, because we've got used to in past seasons having none of the ball really and dealing with very little possession. I think that's changed quite a bit. I think it was a kind of introduction of Corey Smith for a while and Jordan Cousins coming into his own a bit and starting to play a bit more of the football he knew. It was a change of shape and change of personnel. So I think it does depend. Sometimes that back three, the two outside centre backs can kind of slot in. It becomes more of a back five, especially when we're under the cosh. But I think, those two midfielders in the hole, whether it be Digby and Cousins or, we could see Stevenson coming in there with Stokes in the hole ahead of them. I think they will kind of help each other. You quite often see Stokes dropping quite deep and linking up with the others. And we are a team that always look to get it wide, quite a lot of the time, or we certainly should do. And I think you'll see that. You see that on Saturday, and who those personnel out wide are will be interesting to see. But I think, it's fluid, and I'm not saying that in a kind of, total footballing sense. I'm saying it it's a lot of people running around a pitch playing their hearts out against players who are probably, a cut above them. But we will see. But I think it's a model we've kind of got used to and is only so effective given that we are where we are in the table. But I'd be surprised if we set up any differently on Saturday.
Fair enough. We do tend to every now and then, if it does come up, we look at former imps that are playing or in the squad at least. One that I think there'll be quite a few people. The difference between when we had him and when you guys have now got him. Is Daniel Underloo still? Is he out at the moment? Is he injured?
Yeah, he won't be playing, which is a shame for us because he's someone that's put himself about all season and looked. He looked really useful for us. We had a bit of a kind of nightmare, really, not having brought anybody in right at the end of the summer window, and it looked like it was going to continue. And then he came in and was greeted with kind of groans from fans of other teams as well as ours. But he just really kind of hit the ground running. He looked kind of like he was up for the cause with United. He contributed with a few goals, but was always involved in games, was never kind of lazy. But a couple of injuries now, and this one being a longer one, mean that I don't know that we'll see Lundlu again this season. If we do, it'll probably be the final month of the season, and we might be a bit far gone then. So it's a real shame, but he does deserve credit certainly for how he featured at the start of the season, and is someone that we've really sorely missed.
Fair enough. And just looking through your list of goal scorers, I think is it Elias Kachunga's currently top of that table with 6 goals. How's he been looking for you guys?
It's interesting that you say that because Kachunga has been such a great player for us, in seasons gone by, and has that kind of, just incredible experience from the Premier League and the Championship and stuff. But he's not been, our standout player this season. But that's what he brings. He brings goals. He scores a lot of headed goals. He's not a tall guy, but he just gets himself in the right positions and has that quality. I think he's one player that will always get, a sight of goal. And Sully Kaikai was another. And again, that's somebody that we've kind of, we've missed this season through injury. And we're not playing the world's smallest fiddle and saying this season has gone badly because of injury. I think we've had our injuries, but so has everyone. I think the player that, if you're looking for a standout player from us, it would have to be Josh Stokes. Josh Stokes on loan from Bristol City. We've been lucky to keep him this window. He's just been kind of instrumental in everything good about United, certainly in the second half of the season. He looked like a raw talent at the start of the season and had some chances in front of goal and didn't take them. And we were wondering whether it was just a bit too early for him. But in this second half of the season, he's been brilliant. The goal against Wickham was fantastically taken. And he's just there. Everything good that happens about United in a game, he's there at the centre of it. And he'll go on to great things, I'm sure. And I'd be very surprised if he was in League One next season.
Beautiful stuff. Well, I mean, you've kind of discussed most of it already, but what we do like to do is talk about what we can expect to see. I think, judging by the sounds of it, it could be a decent game of football if both teams want to look to play. I know that when we're able to, we'll be able to get the ball on the floor and play some good football. It sounds like you guys are doing the same thing. Is there it's hard to ask this question without being condescending with it, but is there like a systematic issue or something that you can see where we might be able to exploit and maybe get a bit of a weakness?
I mean, there's plenty of them. We've for all the positivity this season, there's been plenty of reasons to be negative. We're very weak from crosses from out wide. I think we've not had that kind of authority in the middle that a really kind of authoritative goalkeeper can provide. So I think there's been communication, breakdowns of communication quite often in there, and we conceded quite a lot of goals. We quite often concede soon after scoring. And yeah, I would say we've got an aging defender in Michael Morrison, or an aged defender, maybe at his age now, and then some quite young defenders around him. And we haven't been able to play the same three throughout the season because of other injuries and suspensions for Morrison too. So I think a bit of kind of, it's unsettled back there. I think there has been issues of the midfield kind of joining up the defense to the attack, and there's been quite a few exploitable gaps in there too. So I think if Jordan Cousins doesn't have a good game, Paul Digby, if he's in there, doesn't, then it could be really, a chance for Lincoln to kind of exploit the center of the pitch there. But for all that, United go into these games and usually will have chances themselves. We're quite swashbuckling in an unconventional sense, I suppose. But yeah, there'll certainly be chances for both sides. Just how good they are time will tell.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna struggle, you might as well do it while you're swinging. That's the way to do it. So,
exactly.
Start to wrap up now. I mean, are there any Lincoln players that you've seen so far this season you think it would be a nice one to have them in our side? Or
there's quite a lot, if that question. Well, United fans will very fondly remember Conor McGrandles. He was an absolute revelation when he played for us, and honestly, we take him back in a heartbeat, regardless of what's happened since he played for United, in how much he's played and stuff like that. I just think he's brilliant, and he's very, very fondly remembered. And rightfully so. He's just, he kind of ran games for us and kept us up. He came in January and very much kept us up in a season where we potentially didn't deserve it, really. I think you look at the captain, Paudie O'Connor, as well, somebody at the back and kind of, govern a defense to a point, is certainly someone that we need as well. So yeah, I would take him. And then is it
Irahan?
Yeah, he looks
Ethan
good.
Irahan, yeah.
I picked a name I can't pronounce, which is never good, but yeah, he's a player that's always looked fairly kind of astute and someone that we would like to have in. But there's a number of names. I can see you've got James Collins, who's come in and already hitting the ground running, goal scoring, and Cambridge United have been crying out for that, since Messrs Sam Smith and Harvey Nibbs left. I mean, Harvey Nibbs wasn't particularly prolific in front of goal, but you can see how they've gone on to better things, and United have had that with Paul Mullin and even Joe Ironside moving down a league and was doing well for Doncaster. We've been quite guilty of getting rid of players and not giving them enough kind of support, time or money or whatever it is that United haven't done, and we've come to punish it. And James Collins would be fitting the mold of someone that we would definitely like in that position. But we're dealing with the cards we've picked and we're dealing with the cards we've dealt, and that's what we'll deal with on Saturday.
Fair enough. Right. Well, it is that time. We always try and end these shows with a prediction. So, if you could be so bold, Jack, how'd you see it going on Saturday?
I've already done a prediction with somebody else, and I kind of feel like I have to honour that. However bonkers it is, I feel like United are just coming into this point of the season now where it's make or break. I feel like we're going to go for this game. I feel like it'll be a really nip and tuck game and quite an ugly one, but I'm going to go for 2-1 Cambridge United.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to do the obvious thing, and I'm going to suggest a Lincoln win, primarily because I think, given some of the reaction to the more positive news from the transfer window just closing, I think there was an indication that the club are really going to be going for it. I think the big one was, you've mentioned Paudie O'Connor. His contract is due up in the summer. Apparently we turned down a couple of bids for him because we are going to give the rest of the season a go. So I'm hoping that'll really start on Saturday, and we just start swinging for each other on, not in that way, of course, but on the pitch, and we'll see what happens. So, look, Jack, it's been a pleasure having you, mate. If you want to just give yourselves a plug for 20 seconds or so, and just let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, Cambridge United podcast, fan-led podcast, Under the Abbey Stand, at Abbey Stand Pod on X and all the rest of the socials, and head to our sponsors, King Street Cellar on King Street, if you ever find yourself in Cambridge for a nice bottle of wine or beer.
Well, there we go. Perfect sponsors. Excellent. Right, well, that's going to do us for now, guys. We will see you later on for another podcast, and then we'll see you for another preview at some point soon. Up the Imps.
Lincoln City are the team, the readiest is their name. Sincil bankers their home ground, and football is their game. So come and cheer them on, you lads, support them all the way. Oh, 'tis hardly life for the red and white, the Imps are here to stay. Whoa!